Welcome back, everybody. So I get asked a lot how much I spend on my Halloween displays, and as you hopefully know, every year I change up my display, make it different, and it's really going to vary year to year. Some years I bring back decor from the dead, like this Ghostbusters display, so I don't have any expenses so far. So let me tell you a little bit about what I earned via YouTube in 2022, starting with my ad revenue. Now this was the least I've ever made on YouTube in an entire year, and that was $4,517. I think a lot of that happens to be my demographic doesn't really attract high monetization. So I do have Patreon to supplement that income, and with Patreon I made $804. However, I do have Patreon expenses, sending out cards and whatnot, and that comes to $640, leaving me $164 in profit. But that is before taxes, and we're just going to disregard that for now. I'm also not going to count any sort of camera or hardware expenses or anything like that. I'm just going to count my Halloween Horror Nights experience. Every year I do videos for that, and that actually cost me about $1,200. So the rest of the video we're going to talk about the display and what's going on and what I spent. So far, up till now, I have reused all of the props from previous years until we get to this camp display, which is new this year because we needed a way to incorporate our new van that we got so I could get it off the driveway. I needed to buy this fake flame effect to really pull the scene together and sell it, and that cost me $26. Now during the intro to this video, we did pass a bunch of inflatables, and I needed to buy a bunch more extension cords this year to be able to power up all of those. I don't know what happened to my extension cords. Every year I seem to need to buy many more, and this year I spent a lot. It ended up being $244. While we're at it, I'm just going to point out I also had a bunch of miscellaneous expenses, zip ties and whatnot that you had to buy throughout for the display, and that came up to $85. But most of these lights and whatnot that we're seeing I did have, again, from previous displays, like my driveway lights. I reuse every year. I've done a spider display previously. In fact, that Ghostbusters car that we saw at the beginning, I traded for a really big spider archway that I had, which was, I thought, a good deal at the time, but now it would have been perfect for my entrance here with my toxic spiders. But I did add one large spider. That's the one there on the right. I got that from the at-home store for $105. So I'm kind of doing some round numbers and adding just a general 6% sales tax on all of the items just to keep it consistent. Some of it might have been slightly more, some of it might have been slightly less, but in general, that's about accurate to what I paid. Some of these props, like those toxic barrels, I got from Lowe's years ago. I love them. I use them every single year. New this year, though, was that pumpkin archway that we just saw, and we're going to be passing through here in a moment. Now, I got that from Spirit. It was originally $150. I used a coupon, and then again with tax and whatnot, came out to be about $127. But I think it did make a good entrance into our Pumpkin Army zone. Now, I do use my Pumpkin Army every single year, usually in different places, but this year I wanted to feature it all the way down my driveway because I did get that giant 12-foot Inferno Pumpkin Man. Which we'll see here in a moment before we get to him. Again, these are animatronics. I got this guy from Spirit years ago. He has held up really well. Spirit items are pretty pricey, but I have noticed that they last for years and years. In fact, one of the items I have was a fogger from Spirit. It was probably one of the first animatronics I bought. Had to have been, 10, 12 years ago, and he just finally, I think, died for good this year, but I certainly think I got my money's worth. Now, the 12-foot Inferno skeleton was a little bit pricey. He came out to $423, but look, he is a show-stopping piece, and I certainly think I'm going to be able to use him year after year. Of course, he's the leader of our Pumpkin Army, which I think I'm going to be using, again, every single year. I just love the idea of the pumpkins. They make excellent decor for Halloween. Now, I did have to add some additional lighting going up the driveway for the pumpkins this year, but I used some lighting effects that were sent to me from some vendors to do video reviews on, so I'm not going to count that as any sort of expense, but I think that probably saved a couple of $100 maybe on some lighting effects. There was also the stacked pumpkin inflatable next to the pumpkin archway. That was a vendor product that I reviewed as well. But most of the stuff I do purchase myself, like the standing pumpkin there and the pumpkin children. Love those products. They all came from Home Depot. And Home Depot itself has become the go-to place for Halloween, it seems, these years. And, of course, they have provided me lots of views and revenue, and I give them a big thanks as well. So now we've entered the cemetery zone. I had a lot of new tombstones this year, starting with that Enter If You Dare light up one from Target. That was $21. But throughout, I save my tombstones year after year. Most of them are styrofoam, but Home Depot had some pretty good heavy plastic ones, resin, whatever it is. And I bought a number of tombstones this year. It's kind of hard to see. A lot of them are there we're looking at. Some of them as well on the side we'll see in a minute. Overall, I spent $227 on assorted tombstones this year. I also bought some mums to the tune of about $28. Up there was the blinking bat that's going to lead us into our vampire zone. That was $64. And here we're coming into a little bit more of the cemetery, where you're going to see the gravedigger animatronic that kind of pulls the whole scene together. He was $211. And of course he had to have a grave to dig up, and what did he pull out of that grave? But the casket, also from Home Depot, and it was also $211. You can kind of see it. Well, I guess we'll take a look at it here in a second. But some of the other gravestones you can see here from the Home Depot. But here's the casket, and that was my animatronic Fogger. He had his head move, which eventually I think just kind of died. But he's just sitting around there right now, still looking creepy as ever. Now I did spend a little bit on mulch to kind of hide the cabling and whatnot in here and to cover the base of my Inferno skeleton. I already incorporated that in some of my miscellaneous costs I told you about before. But it's little things like that that certainly keep adding up. But here as we go into the vampire zone, I created this unwelcome sign this year. Now I did spend $53 on one that just I didn't like, and then I ended up spending another $67 to make that light up sign myself. As we enter the garage area here, we can see that scene setter backdrop. I paid $57 for a bunch of that. I also had some rubber bats and lanterns I ended up not using for $26. Those paper bats were $12. The candelabras, $54. The flameless candles, $35. The batteries for the candles were $26. I actually had to replace it because they all died over a cold night for some reason, but I'm not counting that. As for all of the frames, I had reused most of those from years past. However, because this was a vampire theme, I replaced all the images with printouts that I found online. I did buy that coffin in the corner. It was $32. I also used 25 tablecloths to make that interesting backdrop, which I absolutely love. It was $33. For my vampire vixens here and her captive vampire, I bought that brown coffin with a lid for $44. That stake that she's using, that she's going to assumedly murder him with, cost me $19. It was like a plant stake. It was the only thing I could find off-season. Here are just some more of the display pieces, again, that kind of tie the theme together. That was totally free. Love that. But again, the frames and whatnot I bought years ago, a lot of them from Goodwill, and just used paint to make them glow or not. Now I made some garage centerpieces here. There were 2 of them. They cost $40 altogether. And then I had 6 more centerpieces for the tables that were on the driveway that aren't in this video, but they were there for the party. Those came out to $110. But we are going to finish up the outside display here, just as you can kind of see as you walk out. I wanted to have the cute sign from Target that says "See ya soon," and it was $21, and that little waving skeleton saying goodbye, another $16. So obviously, as I said, we were having a party. I didn't include any of those party expenses. There obviously was for food and alcohol and so forth. But I also made a number of purchases for the inside display. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Before we go in, the door was displayed with a new Target wreath last year. That came out to be $21. And as we go forward, we see another wreath with eyeballs, $25 from Ross. I did buy some creepy cloth this year. I do have a giant bag full, but I always need some more. Spent about $6 on that. But the rest of the entrance here are just pieces that I've reused. And if you're wondering where I store all this stuff, because that is the number one question I'm always asked, I do have a storage room in the basement. I keep some of it in my studio where I film my videos. I've got a big closet up there. Some of it stays out year round. But I do have a lot of pieces that you're not seeing because, again, I don't like to do the same display year after year. And I'm beginning to wonder how much I've spent over the years on all of that stuff. It's probably a very frightening number. But this year, I wanted to do the fortune teller display in the living room. I did have a candle there that I purchased. That was $11. The fortune teller herself was $53 from Oriental Trading Company. Of course, I did have a coupon there as well. That square fortune teller pillow was $26, and there was a throw blanket next to it for $11. If these cards had told me in advance how much I'd be spending on my display, I probably wouldn't have done it. I don't know. But here's another fortune teller pillow. That long one was $16. The round pillow was $18, and the crystal ball pillow was $11. For my fortune teller themed fireplace, I bought some cauldron skulls for $14, a skeleton cat for $11, the mantle scarf was $14, the tall bird cage there was $16. I bought a bunch of those faux book boxes for $60, but I love decorating with those. The small bird cage there was $11. That ram's head from Spirit was $21. And then for my free sticks, I bought a vase for $11. I also did spend $5 on a little plastic owl that was in one of those bird cages on the mantle, but I am always changing and tweaking my display, so he got relegated off to the side in favor of, I think, a skull and a bird inside the bird cage. But a lot of this stuff on the shelf here, again, just stuff from previous displays. Up on the balcony, we've got my witch in a rocking chair. I do have a lot of animated witches, which I'll probably bring back next year in some form into the display. I'm, of course, going to bring back my skeleton pirates that make an appearance most years, but not this year. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do in the living room next year. If you've got any suggestions, of course, I am all open to your suggestions. I guess we're going to take a moment here to go up the stairs to get kind of an overview of the living room. I do tend to start planning for and decorating inside a little bit early in the season. So, sometimes I plan things months in advance and have to buy in the off season, which is why some of the things that I buy are a little bit pricey, just because you can't find them out in the stores. And I'm dealing with the retail sellers on Amazon or sometimes eBay or who knows what. That can really drive up the prices, but usually to lock in something, I'll just go ahead and buy it early, despite the higher costs. But the items that you just saw and are seeing now, again, from previous displays. In fact, the tarot card artwork was from a fortune-telling display that I did in my dining room a few years back. And as we saw, I moved it to the living room this year, changed it up quite a bit. But a lot of this stuff, I try and keep the themes cohesive, bringing that black bird throughout. But one of the tricks that I use to do things like that, of course, the free things I can print out online, changing out your artwork is super easy. I use the same frames every year, just kind of change what's in them. Now, there's nothing really new here in the bathroom as well. This is a lot of the pirate odds and ends that have gone into previous displays. Usually I do them outside. I don't think I've ever done pirates inside. And I'm not sure this makes the best display, but it filled the room, and I was looking for just some last minute inspiration for here, and I just again pulled out the stuff from my storage unit, dug through it, found this, and there we go. We've got my pirate bathroom. I didn't really have a whole lot of time this year to DIY stuff. My big project was that unwelcome sign outside. Here's another animatronic, the Headless Horseman. I did my living room in an entire Headless Horseman theme. in one of my past displays. I think that was probably one of my favorite rooms. So be sure to check out my other videos if you're interested to see how that turned out. But next we're going to go ahead and head into the dining room. This was a brand new concept I did this year for my deadly dinner party. And a lot of this stuff I did have to purchase, starting with the animatronic butler that we're looking at. He was $196, but I have always wanted a butler in my display. I had a little 3-foot one, but I've always wanted a life-size one. Now I just need to find a maid to go along with it. There in the window you can see one of my pirate skeletons kind of peeping in, wondering why we have forsaken him. But with the deadly dinner party, we have our floating ghosts here, the ghost twins from Home Depot again, were $105. The concept here was that we had a couple of dead bodies at the table and their ghosts are floating up behind them. I did have to buy a couple of decayed skeletons from Home Depot at the tune of $74. And then I used a few extra mums. It cost me $37, but they were very big and they did a great job not only of being Halloween decor, but hiding all the infrastructure to make that sort of ethereal lighting effect happen. Speaking of lighting, I did buy a few black lights, toss in a couple of batteries, a little odds and ends here, spent another $34 on some interior things. But a lot of the lighting I've had again for years and years, and some of it of course is from vendors who have sent me products to review. Here on the counter is a Target candelabra for $21 and a floral skull for $21 as well. The runner on the counter there was $11. That little wooden coffin I used to prop up some drinks was $16. And of course the showstopper here is Dean the Deathologist, and he was $159. Again, he was from Home Depot. You really can't go wrong. There's some artwork on the art frame TVs. Free. Again, found it online. Really helps stretch the Halloween budget. Now as we enter the entryway to the garage, I have decorated with spiders. I have quite the collection of spiders throughout the years. I only bought one package of mini spiders to add, and that was $1. The portraits going up the hallway was a whole pack that I bought for $10. I think they were super creepy. Of course, I had some frames that I've used in the past, so I just put the pictures behind the frames, spray painted the frames in a glow-in-the-dark spray paint. There are some black lights shining down from the balcony above, and I think it makes a creepy display. The last little vignette I wanted to share with you, the first thing people see when they walk through the garage door, is my man-eating plant that I bought from Michael's for $48 and stuck in a skull planter. That was from Ross for $24. So there you are. If you were wondering how much money I made last year on my Halloween videos, nothing. I lost $53, and that is before all the taxes I have to pay on all of that income. All I can say is I hope that 2023 is a little bit better for all of us. Before we go, I did want to say a special thank you to all the patrons who help support the channel. If you are interested in joining our Fright Club, you can check out the link to my Patreon page in the description below. Of course, you can also support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Help us get to that 100,000 subscriber mark. Maybe this year. Who knows? Till next time, thanks for watching. Take care. Happy haunting.